It's a pleasure to talk to you, but my task is quite big. There's a part on AKIS that I need to explain, and then I was also asked to give a bit of context on cluster 6 before then your colleagues will go deeper into the subject. So I will start with the AKIS strategies in the CAP plans. The fact that there is an AKIS strategy is very new in the CAP. It's something that is a follow-up, in fact, of what has happened in the research world and in the Standing Committee of Agricultural Research. But before, I first need to tell you what is AKIS, what is an agriculture knowledge and innovation system. It's in fact the organization and interaction of persons, institutions, organizations, all people who use or produce knowledge and innovation for agriculture, and also any interrelated field. So this is the definition that goes into the regulation that will soon be published. And the main players are, of course, farmers and foresters, but also advisors, researchers, farmers' organizations or other organizations, cooperatives, NGOs, networks, retailers, processors, but also the media, several kinds of services, various ministries. So there are a lot of people who play a role within this agricultural knowledge and innovation system, and they all need or produce knowledge. And the reason why we ask every member state now to have a better functioning AKIS is to have more knowledge flows, to create a regional or national interactive innovation ecosystem so that we have more knowledge flows between those AKIS players. And at the same time, it will strengthen the links between research and practice. We don't want that advisors stay on their own and are not connected with researchers, and that all the information that streams through the CAP networks, for instance, does not reach the practitioners and the farmers. So it's all about knowledge flows. That's the main thing to keep in mind when you make up an AKIS strategy. There's a small link here below if you want. This is an 8-pager where you can read more about what is AKIS exactly and also what are the key elements of it. But I will explain it further in my presentation. First, tell you that the A is kept as an A. Why? Because it's already from 2006 that all this started in the Standing Committee of Agricultural Research. And in 2008, they made a declaration that the researchers themselves were not happy anymore with the classical system, the classical linear system of research, meaning the researcher develops something, this solution needs to be passed through advisors to the end users, to the farmers, the foresters, or whoever the end user of the result would be. They felt that there was a need for more cooperation, and they set up a dedicated expert group from almost all member states. And they worked during several mandates, first to develop the operational group and the EIP, and then in their 4th mandate also to develop this AKIS policy, which is now in the CAP. And you can read their report, and you have the link here. And even if you write me an email, I can send you a paper copy. It's also on the Europa website, by the way. You can find it on the Europa website. So why are we now starting up this AKIS approach in member states? It's because we need to connect all those actors so that they don't work alone, that they learn from each other, that they exchange views with each other. The farmer is in the center of our agriculture system, but as I mentioned on this slide, everything what relates automatically to farming and rural activities, like environment, climate, landscape, biodiversity, consumers and citizens, food and non-food systems, including also the whole chain of transformation and distribution up until the consumer. Everything is covered under AKIS. So it's a large world of people to get knowledge flows in between, but we don't forget the farmer. He's in the middle, and he should be better connected with researchers, advisors, businesses, media, organizations, education. I didn't mention that yet, very important. And we want, in fact, by coordinating better all this, bringing all these actors together on a regular and a structured basis, not by accident because they meet, but really getting everybody involved in this and creating continuous interaction. And this will speed up knowledge exchanges and knowledge flows, innovation, and most of all, we will have much more impact from our research and implementation into practice because these people get connected and involved and understand why certain solutions are good for them because they co-develop them in practice. Now, AKIS has the same principles as the EIP Agri. It's all in this big square here in the middle. It's collaboration between various actors to make the best use of complementary types of knowledge from science, from practice, organizational knowledge, whatever, in view of working together all along the project, co-creating, and as a result, we will have a quicker spreading of the solutions because the practitioners are in the projects. They will see it coming alive. They will help it to find the best solutions. They know the context, how it needs to be applied. So we will have a quicker spreading and it will be much more ready to implement into practice. We have also a wide network that tries to then spread all these innovations, and this will, of course, also make this better. Now, why did we move from just having the EIP Agri in our projects? We have already these actors, they are already mixed and working together, but we want really an AKIS strategy now in the next period. It has a big Green Deal relevance, but much more. So we need, on the one hand, continuation, and on the other hand, change. This is how we worked until now. So with part of the money of the budget for the projects in the CAP, there is money for preparing the operational group. There's money for implementing the operational group. And there was also, and is still, money for innovation support services. So people who can help a person with an idea to develop it into a project. On the other hand, with the Horizon 2020 money, we had researchers only projects. For certain projects, you really don't need other actors. If you develop a vaccine, there will be a researcher in a laboratory with his colleagues doing this. But we added this new concept of multi-actor projects, which you meanwhile probably know, and also the thematic networks. And for those, there's a strong recommendation to involve operational group to connect them better with the European projects. Now, we would like to strengthen this more than it is today. And that's why the AKIS approach is needed, because the two sides, they find each other. We have three ways of connecting them, but we can do better. So AKIS is really also to connect these two policies better. On the one hand, we have our EIP Agri network at EU level. We have our EIP networks or NRNs at national level who make the connection. We have our EIP website with all the information about all operational groups, all multi-actor projects. And we have the repository at EU level of all the contacts and a short summary of these projects and the outcomes of the projects to connect the two policies. But with ACIS, it will be better. Just a little view on what has happened already until now. We are apparently, as I heard yesterday, around 2,500 operational groups that are running or finished, because we can only see them when they deliver their outputs. And they tackle a lot of subjects. You can see this in this slide. But we have, in fact, a Green Deal before it even existed, because in this period, 2014-2020, is already 65% of our operational groups. They are working on environment climate issues. And we are proud that people bottom up already start projects to work because they feel that there is a need for that. And this is also something we didn't expect, in fact, when we started this up, we discovered operational groups that they can be projects, innovation projects that serve as a test bed to test new CAP measures. And we saw this coming first in Ireland, now we have it in the Netherlands, in Germany, and in more countries, where they really put the different actors together in an operational group, and they test something that later on could be an eco scheme or an agro-environmental measure or any other CAP measure. And it helps a lot because the measures become better, because the practitioners are involved, they get more enthusiastic, they feel also co-ownership, and the result, exactly as any other multi-actor project, will be more easy to implement. So I must say we already did some good work, and we will go ahead with that. But the result is, in fact, that although it was a voluntary measure, is that almost all member states, except Luxembourg, because they were too little, they do this with national money, so they are not official operational groups, that all member states joined, and we see it in almost 100 rural development programs that they have operational groups, that we have from the 3,200 now around 2,500 operational groups in our database, and there are still 4.5 years to go. The current CAP will run until 2022 because we had delay with the negotiations for the new CAP, and then even in the last months you could start up an operational group and still have 3 years to go before the final invoices need to be delivered. So we can go up until 2025 with operational groups. And then on the other side, on Horizon side, we have for 1 billion euro in total, 2/3 of our agriculture related projects were multi-actor projects, 119 over the 7 years. So you see that there's a growing and thriving network with a lot of practice information coming. We know, and that's our title of this slide, that agriculture will be more and more knowledge intensive. So farmers will need that knowledge to further work on their farm. And the result of everything we already produced is that we have this big volume now of practice-oriented knowledge, and that we will need to manage it in a good way. And that's why we also make some further steps. Already some of our countries were preparing for knowledge reservoirs that can serve for their advisors to help them in the back offices for innovation support or for more competent advice. Like for instance, in Germany and France, we also have it in Lithuania. And we saw this happening, and we didn't want all different types of databases that cannot talk to each other. And there was a first initiative with the Eurachnos project that was only looking to thematic networks, but that was trying to connect those thematic networks. And then the year after, we set into motion a feasibility study on such an EU knowledge reservoir for practice. And they kicked off, almost 2 years ago. They are in their last months, still, I think, a few months to go. They have already a working demonstration in which they show where they want to go and what is possible and feasible. And it will be indeed feasible to make at EU level a very big knowledge reservoir with all this data and all this practices for easy, accessible, interactive, and attractive information for practitioners. And this is a little bit how it would look like. So first of all, now in our EIP website, we work with keywords. So you have to have the right word to look. The topic that we now drafted and that is being evaluated has artificial intelligence in it, so that it's very smart to search. Second, it will be, and that's key, of course, because our operational groups, they are in the language of the country. And multi-actor projects, they are in English. So maybe the Estonian people who don't know English, they cannot read it. So this EU knowledge reservoir will be multilingual. It will have all European languages and will be able to translate. There will also be a possibility to make comments so that we see reactions on certain projects, additions saying, we also did this, or you could do this in another way, so that people find each other and start talking about it, so that we really build practice communities around certain subjects. There will be a much more easy access to all kinds of education materials, photos, films, attractive things for practitioners. That is much more easy to reach directly instead of through the Excel sheet and with links as it is now on the EIP website. And we also are looking forward to quantify that. It's a little bit like booking.com. The more a certain article gets read, and that's the same for scientific articles, the more probably interesting it is. So it will be a way of feeling where are the real interesting things. So if we manage to have this finished in a number of years, and we will do that again together with you, together with the ACES in the country, the contractor who will do this will be obliged to work together with the ACES in the countries. We will have some kind of, like Commissioner Cholos had a dream at the time, he called it an Agri Wikipedia. We will have a very nice EU level knowledge reservoir for practice, where the countries will be able to learn from each other and to understand it also. This is very important, in their own language. So this is coming in the next period. It's in the call 2021, so it's in evaluation now. Now, further on ACES, what's changing? As you already saw, until now we had innovative project that we funded under CAP and under Horizon 2020, and we will top that up with a whole ecosystem where we systematically and regularly interlink the people that are part of the ACES. And it works in the CAP with objectives. In total, we have 9 common objectives. There are 3 that are linked around economic issues, viable income, competitiveness, power in the food chain. There are 3 that are linked to climate, environment, and biodiversity. And then we have 3 more social oriented, and in particular, generation renewal, vibrant rural areas, and also the link to the citizens and concerns about food and health quality, and all these different common objectives, they are covered by the cross-cutting objective. So projects will be able to work on all these 9 objectives. It will not be just the EIP on agriculture, productivity, and sustainability, but it could equally be some consumer producer chains or something on generation renewal. It will be much broader than, you know, the EIP in the past. And with this ACE strategy, we link up the people. This is our main article. So we start from looking at how are the ACEs now, because all these people are there in the countries, but we want to improve the knowledge flow. So we need to look at how it is organized now in a SWOT analysis and reflect how we can do better. That's the first step. And we picked out 3 main pillars, let's say, of an ACES: advisors that are close to farmers and in constant relation with them. You call them technicians often, researchers, and the CAP networks who have all this information from all these projects. If those 3 work already better together within the framework of the future ACES that they will build, we will already move very much together. Of course, they will do it with the rest of the ACES, but we really focus on these 3 because we expect that they can make the ACES move most quickly forward. And the result will be that advice and innovation support service will be provided in a more competent way. There's also, of course, the digital technologies that will play a big role in all this and are enablers for all this. This is a slide, because time is short, where I just show you the 4 big strands of potential actions related to such an ACES strategic approach. So first of all, there's the enhancing of knowledge flows, getting people together in many, many ways that will strengthen the links between research and practice. And there are a few examples here to better understand it. There's secondly, a big effort to change our approach for farm advice under the CAP. We will strengthen our farm advisors and our farm advice, and we will embed it and get our advisors in better contact with research, that they can bring the outcomes of research and the outcomes of everything which is in the CAP network's database and in the knowledge reservoirs, so that we will have stronger and smarter advisors. Of course, we keep our operational groups, but we learned a lot from the current period. Also for Horizon and Horizon Europe, our multi-actor projects will move ahead, learning from the past. And last but not least, our digital tools will help us. There will be operational groups on digital. There's also work on digital skills development. And of course, as I already said, on the knowledge reservoirs for practice. So just a flavor of the different activities. We have an ACES tool now that is sent to member states with much more information in it. It will come also on the EIP website, but I quickly go through some elementary actions part of the ACES approach. First of all, these CAP networks, what should they do? They should filter, summarize, and translate all the info that is relevant for their country. Maybe not everything that is there in the big database is useful, so it's their job to see what is interesting for us from these operational groups, from the multi-actor projects, and to work with that, with all the material that is there. There will be creation of knowledge centers or knowledge platforms where people can meet, and these knowledge reservoirs. For the researchers who have mostly incentive to draft scientific publications, we need specific incentives. And we've already seen very nice examples of, for instance, IRTA, where there is even a measurement for researchers to see in how far they also work for practice. And they would need to be allowed, because their career development now is not pushing them to do that. So somehow, maybe with interministerial agreements, they need some incentives to share more easily their results in an understandable way and in dissemination channels that farmers use, because farmers and advisors, they really don't read scientific articles, and the language is very different. It needs to be more simple and more audiovisual. So we need specific incentives for researchers. That's part of the ACE strategy that's foreseen. And for all this, of course, key thing is always money, money. There's enough adequate funding needed, and we can have that through the technical assistance, or through Article 72, or to reorganization of tasks within research bodies and national funding. There are many ways to do this. What we do at EU level with our thematic networks is collecting knowledge ready for practice and presenting it in a way that is attractive for practitioners. Well, exactly the same you can do at national level. Organizing bottom-up calls and do efforts to also disclose the needs of farmers. Regular face-to-face events. Of course, COVID is now a bit against us, but are always very important. You choose a certain theme and you do it either outside on a farm, make sure that these researchers are also there, they see real life on a farm, they can meet a farm, they can discuss with advisors, etc. Or in winter, you could do it inside with breakout groups, etc. So events. CAP networks, who can do on a regular basis meetings with research farmers and advisors and share the work of the researchers with practice, learn researchers how to work more interactive and listen to farmers and advisors' concerns. And there are also very cheap, efficient and informal ways. And one of them is co-location. Just put your researchers, advisors, and maybe even the networks in the same building so that they can meet at the coffee machine, at the lunch, wherever, maybe even in an educational institute or where a farmers organization is. It doesn't matter where, as if you just get these people informally also together as much as possible. Looking a little bit at the time, I need to speed up. Two main instruments for the future ACES will be this innovation support service that is really obligatory in each member state, and also the knowledge hub, the back office for advisors, where all the knowledge for practice is collected. And you can read this in this SCAR ACES report, where that is explained very much into detail. Now, our advice has changed a lot. First of all, it's not so focused anymore as the former FAS on cross-compliance. It's broad. We're looking now to all advisors, not only the certified ones, but public or private advisors. We want them to be integrated in the ACES in an inclusive way, able to cover economic, environmental, and social dimensions, and deliver up-to-date technological and scientific information so that they are better qualified. Further, they must, and this is also new, must be impartial and be able to provide innovation support, bring people together, capture ideas, and develop operational groups. And last but not least, when we integrate them in the ACES, we want them to learn a lot. So there's also an obligation to train advisors. And there's a list here, and I'm looking at the clock, so I'm going to leave you to read these slides at your ease. So what can they do, these advisors? Making sure that there's innovation support available, that they interact with researchers, that they have specialist advisors who can help them on specific topics and have a very good connection with the researchers in these fields, that they participate and also share the knowledge from operational groups, and that they also share amongst themselves, that they make networks amongst themselves to share information. We can also in the CAP pay for advisory services. For instance, here you see a mobile van with which they can measure not only the manure, but also the feed of the cows, the blood of the cows, whether they are pregnant, etc. It's a whole van full of technology. So things like that can be shared. And that's also why we have an EU network to share digital tools, so that people also can learn from each other, that advisors learn across the borders. And one of the things we absolutely want is that more advisors and technicians get into these operational groups, because they are the real good multipliers. They learn, they bring the knowledge in, they capture practice needs, they bring practice knowledge in, but also they multiply what comes out of the operational group to the outside world. And up until now, we only had 9% advisors, and we really would like to see that go up to 50%. So we have big expectations there. For the CAP networks, I would say just share all these outcomes as much as possible in events, etc. And one of the things they have to do in particular is connect with operational groups and with Horizon projects. And therefore, it's important that they keep a good public inventory of operational groups and of advisors that is up to date, so that researchers can easily find those operational groups and advisors and get them involved into their projects. So it's important to have more communication and dissemination during operational groups and also during multi-actor projects. We would like to see that our national contact points are closely working together with the CAP networks, that they see each other maybe in a monthly encounter, that they know where are the operational groups and what are they doing, where are our advisors, so that they can be joining certain multi-actor projects. And you can do that, for instance, by being proactive, as today. This is a perfect example. Brokering events for operational groups, for multi-actor projects are very useful for that. Now, we are almost, just a minute, I'm a bit, yeah. We're here at the end with some info that you can find. It was a 2.5 days info on AKIS strategies, where you can find plenty of information, how to do better advice with 3 examples, how to do better CAP network activities, how to have nice AKIS interventions with 10 good examples, and also already a start of CAP plans with AKIS strategies in, and a nice summary at the end. Now, to finalize the part on the CAP, we are already here in this phase. We are working informally with the countries now until December, and end of December, the CAP plans will officially be submitted. And then there will be 6 months to discuss formally the CAP plans, so that the real CAP plans can start on the 1st of January 2023. Meanwhile, the old NRNs can continue, but also the new CAP networks will be set up. So they will be running a little bit in parallel all along this period. So we hope with building and linking up these AKIS across the EU that we will really speed up creativity and practice application. That's our big aim, more impact of what research is doing. And therefore, we need this connectivity and a quicker circulation of information. And the AKIS word is sometimes frightening the people a little bit because it's new and they don't know what it is and it's complex and blah, blah, blah. But as Jean Monnet, who invented, let's say, Europe in 1954 said, what stops us is the fear of change, but nevertheless, it's on change that our salvation depends. So this is a nice way to close on the CAP part. Don't be afraid, you will select certain good interventions that will help you forward. And now,
excuse me, Ms. Van Oost, just to remind you that we ran out of time, so if you can shorter your intervention, we'll appreciate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this was the one on cluster 6, and I know that you have people that are coming behind me that will go much deeper into this. So I'm just giving you a reminder on the specific targets where we need research and innovation. We have already a lot of newcomers and thematic networks that can help there. The structure of cluster 6 is that it was co-created within the Commission, and that we have 7 destinations that you see here, and your colleagues will tell more about that. The intervention logic is a bit difficult for some people to understand, so we start from the legal base. Then there is a strategic programming level from which the expected impacts have followed. These impacts, they are translated into the 7 destinations in our cluster. And each of these destinations has then expected outcomes, which you see in the topics. So this is how the whole thing is put together, and is maybe a little bit difficult if you see it for the first time, but your NCPs will definitely explain this better if you wish. These are the destinations, not for me to go further into that. I leave that to you. I just tell you about destination 7, because that's the place where ACES is. We have a number of innovative tools to help and support ACES in the CAP strategic plans. First of all, I told you already this EU knowledge reservoir. There's also a big project to interconnect the ACES in the countries so that member states can learn from each other. Innovation support services are obligatory and new to many countries. So there's also a project to learn and to interconnect and give good examples to member states. There's a project on how to better prepare multi-actor projects and to make them more interactive. We continue our EU thematic networks, and we have even a new extra format where we build thematic networks from operational groups. Minimum 5 operational groups from minimum 3 member states can start up a thematic network on their common subject. And again, that's why it's so important to know from each other where are the operational groups and what are they doing, so that you can build a European project, thematic network around it. And then last but not least, we have started with an advisory network across the EU, linking up advisors on digital tools. We have now one on interactive innovation, and we will continue with one on short supply chains and the call 2021. Call 2022, there's one on water use, and we intend to go further on in 2023 with organic, with pesticide use, a few themes around the Green Deal, most probably. That's not decided yet, but that's definitely new and important for you to know this on beforehand. And then you know that there are missions. Your colleagues will explain that, and that the multi-actor approach has now extended all over cluster 6, the full 9 billion, not only the Agri project, but all the other projects are now also streamlined throughout the cluster. The number of topics, we were very surprised, is very high in the call that is running now, 2022. We see that more than half, 53%, is multi-actor, and a big budget is going to those projects. So it's very important to understand very well what is multi-actor. And that's why in these 2 last slides, I repeat it. You already know it. We worked with it for 7 years. But it's important to realize that if you look on the website to the topic, you will not find the requirements. You need to look up the requirements here in the link to the full PDF on page 19 to 21, because the definition has been expanded a little bit to cover all these different parts of Destination 7. And further on, it has gained weight because it's an eligibility criterion. So if you don't fulfill a good multi-actor approach, the selection stops, in fact. Don't forget that it's not enough just to do applied research and have a researcher in charge of maybe some field trials. It's really working together, co-creating, co-ownership. And this slide is then the list, simple list, but you have to read the full detail in the work program, in the PDF work program, because you cannot see it in the topic. The IT guys there forgot to put a link, so it's very important that you find it in the introduction. So that's it for now. We hope that all this work will speed up knowledge exchange and innovation. And I thank you a lot for listening to me.